Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Katie Wallace, and today I'm talking about food-based cleansing. I'm a naturopathic doctor in Madison, Wisconsin. This talk is for health education reasons only and should not take the place of medical advice. I hope you'll join me next month when I talk about age-reversing habits. That'll be another Zoom presentation on Wednesday, September 9th. And then in October, I'll be talking about mycotoxins on the menu, how mold makes its way through the food system and can affect sensitive individuals. So today I'm going to talk about what is cleansing, what would be a cleansing diet, or how can you therapeutically upgrade your diet. So we're going to talk about cleansing foods and a therapeutic diet. And then we'll talk about the body tune-up series, which is the food-based cleansing process I write about in my book, The Body Tune-Up. And we'll go through what a digestive cleanse is, followed by a critter cleanse, a kidney cleanse, and a liver cleanse. So the process we'll be talking about is written about in my book, The Body Tune-Up. The first few chapters talk about what I'm going to introduce you to in the beginning of the talk in terms of the science behind inflammation and toxicity in the body. And then the second part of the book lays out exactly how to do the cleanse. And then the last part of the book is recipes and a menu plan. So when we're talking about health, I think it's important to acknowledge that health is not just the absence of disease. It's also having healthy energy levels, having a healthy, comfortable digestive system, mental and emotional health, and optimized physiological function in however many areas of our lives we can have. This is a quote from the Nutritional Journal in 2014 that says, while today's modern diet may provide beneficial protection from nutrient deficiencies, it's really the overabundance of calories and macronutrients that lead to increased inflammation, reduced control of infection, increased rates of cancer, and increase for allergic and autoinflammatory diseases. So the idea of food-based cleansing has been around for a long time in naturopathy, and today's scientific studies are actually showing that it can be a very helpful strategy for managing chronic illness. So when we do cleansing, basically the goal is to rid the body of any stored toxins. Many times when our internal antioxidant levels become depleted, we become much more susceptible to the toxins in our environments, or sometimes we're exposed to toxins we aren't even aware of, and those can be causing fatigue or other symptoms. We're also working on getting rid of unwanted microbes or critters or the biotoxins they make. There's an increasing amount of scientific literature showing that chronic inflammation, heart disease, cancer, all of these issues can stem from a disorganized gut, a gut that's leaky, a gut that supports microbes that are producing toxins or lipopolysaccharide toxins that then signal a lot of the inflammation. And so as a practitioner in this area, it's really exciting to see how important the gut is and the scientific findings that it's the healthy gut and the signaling of that gut that are relating to our overall experience of health. And, we can improve our cognitive health, our longevity. We can help prevent disease through working on optimizing gut health. We're also eliminating excess waste. If there's an issue with extra fecal matter or chronic constipation, cleansing is a great remedy for that. And also eliminating extra waste that can be inside the cells. Not everybody addresses inflammation in cells as easily as others. And so cleansing is a tool that kind of tells the body, okay, let's give you the right nutrients in the right setting so that you can eliminate what is no longer needed here, and it's not in turn causing more problems. But we don't just want to cleanse for the sake of cleanse. We want to think about having balance. So there is such a thing as cleansing too much, and that's not what I'm about. We only want to cleanse when we're working towards improving our blood sugar control. This is especially important for women, especially perimenopausal women, menopausal women, and aging men and women. Blood sugar control is really essential to our health. We also want to think about endocrine or hormonal balance. So we want to make choices that promote hormonal health rather than work against it. And we want to feel good. We want to have nervous system health. We want to have a healthy nervous system regulation. So we want to make food choices, even when we're cleansing, that promote our overall mental health and emotional well-being. We want to cleanse to help alleviate chronic pain and chronic health issues. So we don't necessarily want to make decisions that are going to make those things worse. We want to support a healthy immune system overall and promote healthy digestion. So I've designed the cleanse that I'm talking with you about to prioritize these things. Cleansing has been around for a long time. Many traditional cultures include periods of cleansing or fasting, and historical reasons for this have been increased spiritual connections, renewed energy, increased empathy for those who have less than us. And modern day reasons for cleansing can be to overcome emotional attachments to food. We're kind of at a unique point in time where we have almost access to too much food, and it's this excess that is degrading our health rather than promoting it. So cleansing can really help if someone feels like they're addicted to certain foods or certain behaviors. Cleansing's really good when we're feeling stuck. Like you have a serious health issue or a number of health issues and they're not resolving and you're feeling really stuck. This sort of therapeutic shift in the diet and approach to cleansing can really help with that situation, moving it to a better place where the person's feeling better. Cleansing helps, like I said, just eliminating excess things that are working against the body. So it's purifying. It can help with the transition between seasons, especially the late summer and fall. This is a great time to cleanse. And cleansing can lead to enhanced mental awareness. I'll never forget the first time I taught the Body Tune-Up workshop. So I teach the workshop and I'm sorry, I teach this series that I'm talking with you about today in a group context, and we start every October, and I have a slide about it at the end of the talk. And the first time I did this was probably 20 years ago, and there was a lawyer who was in the class, and we had just come back for our second class, so everybody had started the digestive cleanse, the first part of the cleanse. And we do a check-in. Everybody's going around the circle, like just sharing how is it going and what are they experiencing. And I remember the lawyer saying, well, yeah, it's going okay. I'm eating lots of vegetables and that's coming along. And something really shifted for me at work. Like for the first time, I really hear what people are saying. I just um, sort of got a chuckle out of that, but I think it's true. I mean, when I did my first cleanse, it did help a lot of my physical health issues, and I was very surprised that emotionally I felt better too. So, besides these more cultural or traditional and historical supports for cleansing, there are scientific supports for cleansing too, where studies have found that cleansing helps promote the immune system to be a little healthier, a little more active in a beneficial way, breaking down zombie cells through a process called apoptosis, just helping get rid of things that otherwise maybe the body didn't have the extra support to eliminate diseased cells. It also helps create healthy fluctuations in a metabolic rate. And so we think that that can lead to not just better weight management, but also longer lifetimes. And studies have found that cleansing helps with relief from fatigue. So, one of the things we're focused on with cleansing is eliminating toxins that we might store in our body through exposure. So, we're exposed now in the modern day to toxins every day. We're exposed to things that contain heavy metals, such as, maybe swordfish or big tuna we eat, or mercury fillings that we received in past time. Um, we are exposed to pesticides in the food source, but also environmentally in people that might be spraying. We're exposed to plastics. You get a cup at Starbucks and it's got that nice plastic lid on it, and the water's heating up and then condensing and dripping back down. That's exposing us to extra plastics. People are microwaving in plastics, storing food in plastics. So plastics are kind of ubiquitous now and represent a toxin, scientists say, as well as a number of other industrial chemicals that we're exposed to, like when we fill up at the gas station, or different toxins we get exposed through gut imbalances. So I'm just not trying to make anybody paranoid, but just saying, like, there's many, many ways we're exposed to toxins, and our bodies have an innate ability to deal with those. But some individuals are a lot more susceptible, and at some point, the toxin load can just become too much. So in many cases, toxins aren't eliminated efficiently, and they can accumulate in our bodies and then give us symptoms. Some of the symptoms scientists have identified in studies um, that toxins lead to are obesity, cardiovascular disease, neurological and cognitive issues such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease, immune system dysfunction, chemical intolerance, and issues with reproduction, so issues with fertility, but also developmental concerns for our children because of the toxins that we have in our bodies. So I mentioned the body has 3 steps to natural detoxification. So these are the phases, and they happen in the liver, which is the largest organ inside the body. The first phase is called activation. So this is when the body takes the toxin um, and begins to get it ready for the next steps. Activation relies on having specific nutrients that are really abundant in cruciferous vegetables. So the cruciferous vegetables include broccoli, cauliflower, collards, cabbage, kale, anything in that family is really supportive. So if you're thinking about doing a food-based cleanse, kind of want to take a step back and think about, well, what foods do I want to eat that really help work with my body's innate ability to detox? The next phase is neutralization. So um, this takes the toxin that's been activated and changes its chemical structure so that it can go on to be eliminated. And neutralization relies on protein. So we can't really have an effective cleanse unless we've got adequate protein. It relies on glutathione, which is an antioxidant that we make inside the body, and it relies on sulfur. So sulfur can come from Epsom salts, which are magnesium sulfates, or sulfur-rich vegetables like onions and garlic and that entire family. The third step is elimination. Elimination is moving the toxins that have been denatured to be able to be handled by the body and eliminated, and moving them out either through sweating, through urination, or through a bowel movement. So we've got to have adequate fat. Fat is very important. So a cleanse is not going to be effective if you're not taking enough fat in. It's got to have adequate salt. Salt is very important for the digestive system and the signaling and regular functioning. You got to have healthy bacteria or probiotics. Magnesium is essential for good elimination, and of course, plenty of water or hydration. So in general, I tell people to drink at least 3 to 4 quarts of water a day. For many people, it's really important that that includes electrolytes in order for it to be effective hydration. So I mentioned that there's 3 steps, and activation is the first. A lot of people will feel more toxic or feel the symptoms of the different toxins they're exposed to when they don't have support in all three phases. The things pictured here, like the alcohol, caffeine and coffee, VOC, chemicals that we might be exposed to, like in paint, these all activate the first step. Um, and so in a way, they can actually sort of keep the chemicals kind of stuck in the first step by really activating phase one in the liver. And if you're not well supported in elimination, in neutralization and then elimination, then you'll get a headache, or you'll feel kind of sick, or have various other symptoms when you're exposed to these things. So I talked about toxins. You definitely want to think about how can I cater a cleanse to support toxin elimination. But there's a couple other things that are really important to think about when you're doing a cleanse. The second is metabolic health. If you're not metabolically healthy, then you're not really going to experience greater benefits from doing a cleanse. So metabolic health has to do with your blood sugar control. As we're getting older, all of us are making more insulin more readily, and it's taking more of that insulin to get the sugar or blood glucose into the cells that need it for energy. And this process is called insulin resistance. And so a lot of pretty much all chronic health issues, chronic health diseases come from insulin resistance, this process of making more insulin and not being able to use it. And the reason for that is that the insulin is very inflammatory and has many downstream consequences to increasing inflammation. So whatever we do with a cleanse, we want to make sure that we are making choices that promote metabolic health. Otherwise, you might have some of the symptoms listed here. We've got fatigue, constant hunger, unable to lose weight, craving, migrating aches and pains, obesity, increased fat storage, issues with thyroid gland, hormonal imbalance, etc. The third thing we want to think about, so we talked about toxins, we talked about metabolic health. Now I want to talk about immune health, is making food choices that reduce inflammation and promote your immune health. And by that, I mean, we don't want to make food choices that promote the pro-inflammatory cytokines pictured here. So basically, one of the major tenets of chronic inflammation is the production of cytokines, which are chemicals made by the immune system that are pro-inflammatory. And there are many different processes that promote the secretions of these chemicals that keep us in a chronically inflamed state, and food choices will promote this too. So we want to take out the foods that are going to promote pro-inflammatory cytokines and make better choices. And then we'll see, oh, I feel better. And yes, this issue I have, frozen shoulder or chronic gut issue or breathing problem, whatever the sign of the chronic inflammation it is, can get better. So what do we want to eat? Well, so I told you sort of the basic principles on which you want to build a good cleanse. And so the foods you want to include would be healthy fats, like olive oil is a great example, healthy vegetables, because you want to feed the gut biome and feed it some good fiber. And there's probably also some good phytochemicals that are beneficial there too. And then healthy proteins, because we need that for metabolic health. We need it for toxin elimination. And the immune system very much relies on beneficial protein. So I've got a picture of a grass-fed bison here, but there's many other examples of healthy protein that's not inflammatory. Fats are the other thing that are really, really important. I guess I can't overemphasize the importance of fats in cleansing because they help drive that phase 2 aspect. And they also provide a good source of fuel that does not worsen insulin resistance typically. And they help deliver a lot of vitamins to different cells. So coconut oil, duck fat, olive oil, these are all good examples of fats to eat on a cleanse. And typically when I have someone start a cleanse, I have them eat a very low carbohydrate diet. There are some exceptions to this. Not everybody does well on a very low carbohydrate diet, so those people would be the exception. But in general, most people do really well with it, and they need to have at least 2 tablespoons of fat with every meal to replace the calories from not eating the carbohydrates. Fish is a great food, another example of a beneficial fat and a very high protein food. So you want to select wild caught fish, ideally cold water fish, those that are low in heavy metals like salmon and char, cod are good examples. I discourage people from eating fruit on the cleanse. Sure, some people might eat a strawberry or a blackberry or two or something, and that can be okay. But fruit is a form of sugar. And so it's going to disrupt the metabolic health if it's taken at the wrong time or with the wrong combination. So I typically tell people to really de-emphasize fruit. Don't eat a lot of fruit, especially in the beginning, because I'm really trying to help people get their insulin levels down and improve their metabolic health, which will improve their cardiometabolic health and improve their inflammation, and help with toxin elimination. Okay, juicing can be helpful with a cleanse, but there are some caveats to juicing. If you want to juice celery or cucumber or any green vegetable, that can be really good. The problem with juicing is that it can remove the fiber and concentrate all of the sugar. So you just want to be careful not to be concentrating the sugar of very sugary or starchy things. So like I probably wouldn't advise on a cleanse like this to be juicing a bunch of carrots or beets or fruit, because that's just going to concentrate the fruit and that's going to work against the metabolic benefits of the cleanse. Juicing can also be sometimes too cooling for people. So if you have issues with your digestive system, like you have a lot of loose stools or diarrhea, then juicing is probably not as good for you. And it would be better for you to roast your food, bake it, make crock pot meals, have things that are more cooked and more warming to help with that type of a scenario. All grains should be avoided, so breads, but also things like rice and oats because of their obviously the refined grains made from flour just act like sugar, and so those are going to kind of undermine the metabolic health. Um, Also, they would very much be triggers for inflammatory immune responses, and so they want to be eliminated because of that. The whole grains like rice and oats need to be eliminated because of the high carbohydrate content for most people. And they also can be very disruptive to the gut. So I see a lot of people with complex digestive issues, maybe a chronic food sensitivities or chronic digestive issues that otherwise aren't being resolved. And it's usually really helpful to eliminate the grains while we're working on repairing that. And then sometimes some limited grains may be added back in later. In general, we're also working on the circadian rhythm. So we want to make sure we're not just skipping breakfast and having coffee and then making choices that lead us to wanting a lot of sugar at the end of the day. Instead, having routines where we have a plan. You're going to be most successful with a food-based cleanse if you've got a plan and you stick to your plan. So that's why doing it with a group like the Body Tune-Up group that I offer in October is really good because you've got the accountability of people doing it with you. Um, but whether or not you're doing it by yourself or in a group, you're going to be successful if you have a plan and you stick to your plan. If you're impulsive, or you don't have a very good plan, then who knows if it's going to work or not. So the other piece about the food choices is that you want to avoid foods that are top immune triggers. And so I've listed some of the top immune triggers here. Gluten is one of them. Gluten has a very large molecular peptide structure, so it's kind of a target for a disrupted gut or a body with a lot of inflammation to make a lot of those pro-inflammatory cytokines that I was talking about in the beginning. So you want to get rid of bread. You want to get rid of what is the word I'm thinking of? Any other sources like rye or tabbouleh, things like that. Sugar I've already talked about how you want to avoid things that raise insulin. Um, and so sugar is number one in that. So definitely sugar has no place on a cleanse. Dairy is another food that has a large molecular peptide structure, so it can often help people with reducing inflammation to eliminate dairy. Corn actually has a gluten very similar to wheat gluten, and so it should be eliminated. It's also a big source of mycotoxins or mold toxins in the diet, so I would avoid it during a cleanse. Soy, again, a large molecular peptide structure that tends to trigger immune reactions, as well as peanut. So I would advise if someone's doing a cleanse that they eliminate all of these foods and more. I've been generally talking about more being like eliminating the other grains. You also typically would eliminate legumes, but sometimes when I'm working with someone who's a vegetarian or vegan, we can specially prepare high protein legumes like lentils or mung, so that they can get enough protein on the cleanse. So sometimes you got to make adjustments to the cleanse to make it work for you. And I usually sit down with people one on one and, help them modify a diet if they have individual needs like that. I mentioned that these foods have large peptide structure, and that's why they need to be eliminated so that the immune system is not constantly getting aggravated. The reason for that is the immune system in the gut works by targeting foods that have a large structure. So it's not that there's anything inherently like wrong with the foods on the list I just gave you. It's just that they have this large peptide structure, and so they tend to be greater immune triggers. And when we've got disrupted health, and we eat these big immune triggers, then that can lead to a lot of inflammation. Last month, I gave a talk about leaky gut, and you can view that talk on my website. But that talks about when the gut lining is compromised, how scientists are finding that this is an underlying cause for many different types of disease, including mood disorders and cancer, and just a whole host of different health issues. So it can seem overwhelming, and definitely a food-based cleanse is not for everyone. But for people that are really ready, it works because we're taking out so many different triggers for inflammation at once. So I like to use the analogy that you have a bathtub, and if you have a lot of inflammation in your body or a chronic issue in your body, it's like the water is overflowing. And so if you just take out one thing, you're like, oh, well, I'm just not going to drink alcohol. Well, that's good. I mean, I think taking out one thing is a good first step and can help with getting someone eventually where they want to go. But for people who are really looking for a big shift in their health, who are kind of, just really ready, taking out all the different layers of the water to actually get the water level down to where a person feels good again is so impactful. And that's why I coach people to take out so many foods at once. Also, the process, as you can imagine, does kind of force people to make much healthier choices. Oh, I can't eat all of this convenience foods like bagel and cream cheese or whatever it was, or cereal. Oh, I have to actually, figure out how to make protein heavy food and how to get my five, vegetables in every day, and how to get healthy fats in, how to prioritize myself in this way. So the body tune-up is a 6-week process where you basically start the diet that I just talked about. Some people will start it ahead of time, but most people who do it will start it like on day one that they start their digestive cleanse. So you've got to sort of have a good scope of the diet and what you're doing with your diet first, and then you can begin using special techniques or supplements to sort of be more targeted and accelerate the effects of the cleanse. So there's a digestive cleanse, which is 10 days, a critter cleanse, which is 14 days, but can be longer if people need that. If they've had sort of a chronic digestive issue for a while, it can go much longer. Kidney cleanse, which is just 4 days, and a liver cleanse, which is 12. So we start with a digestive cleanse because if we're successful in helping eliminate some extracellular waste and getting your blood sugar levels back in balance and moving out toxins, well, a lot of that waste is going to end up in the colon to be moved out in a bowel movement. And if a person's not having healthy bowel movement, the cleanse is basically going to backfire. So it's really important to prioritize elimination, having a bowel movement, ideally 2 or 3 times a day, as many times as the person is eating a meal. And we do that with a special diet. I usually start people on like a ketogenic diet with lots of vegetables, lots of fat and healthy proteins, consistent meal times 3 times a day, snacks when they need it, of all the healthy things. And then oftentimes a fiber can be used, but fiber doesn't work for everybody. Sometimes someone's gut biome is so out of balance that they can't really tolerate much fiber or any fiber. So that definitely needs to be determined on an individual basis. And then we use some kind of a binder, like bentonite clay, activated charcoal, or I like this combination, the GI detox. So you don't have to do supplements on the cleanse. I've definitely had people only do the food and get a lot of benefits, but the special supplements really help to accelerate the benefits. And for people who have toxicity or major gut or immune issues, or some other underlying issue that's not just based on diet, then the supplements are a lot more helpful in helping them get the benefits they want. It's also helpful to put good bacteria in and help restore a healthy gut lining so that the gut is not too impermeable. And I like a product called Ione for that. It's a carbon metabolite that helps feed the good bacteria so that the signaling in the gut is improved and the gut is less leaky. But there are many things you can do to help this, and I talked about that last month. So you can go to my website, humannaturellc.com, and look at the leaky gut video that I just released to review that information. It can also be really helpful on a cleanse to do green drinks. You can do this in the form of a powder, which can include like spirulina or chlorella and different vegetables that's just added to a beverage, or you can make your own green drink or your own green smoothie. And it's really important to eat a lot of local produce. So if you're in Madison, like I am, you have great access to farmers markets and lots of good produce that are really the foundation of the cleanse. Once you've done the digestive cleanse, and I didn't mention it there, but there would obviously be an emphasis on fats and proteins in the diet and plenty of water as well. Then you're ready to move on to a critter cleanse. And typically the critter cleanse lasts about 14 days, but as I mentioned, sometimes it's necessary to go a little longer. And with the critter cleanse, we're thinking about how do we give the microbiome further support, because the microbiome really controls so much signaling in the body, and can really play a huge role in someone's health. So optimizing the gut microbiome is always an important part of any like therapeutic health approach. In fact, 90% of your serotonin and over 50% of your dopamine, these are neurotransmitters made in your body. They're like hormones made in your nervous system. They're made in the gut. So if you want to work on your emotional or your mental wellness or just your brain performance, your clarity, your memory, it's working on the gut is a big part of that. I like to use this product called Critter Defend, which is an immunoglobulin. It's got nice gentle support for the gut lining while also working as a gentle binder and supporting healthy gut immune function to address microbial imbalances or, parasitic imbalances that might be present in the gut. For some people, if they've got a chronic gut issue or a chronic health issue, what's going on in the gut might be more complex than just doing a simple critter cleanse. It might be helpful to do what's called a GI MAP stool test that'll really map out what's going on and then give me the information I need to really target what's happening in the gut. But in general, this is a supplement that helps cover a lot of basis, and it can be very supportive in the next couple weeks of someone eating on a food-based cleansing diet that I discussed. We're working on leaky gut And then after we've done that, we're ready for a kidney cleanse. So the kidneys and the liver are the big detoxifying and elimination organs. The kidneys are like filters. They're constantly filtering 1 to 2 quarts of blood every minute. So like this is trying to this is 2 cups. So a quart would be 4 cups. So, I mean, just think about how much they're working to filter the blood every minute. And they're basically kind of acting like filters in a fish tank. And so when we do a kidney cleanse, we're just giving the kidneys some herbal and nutritional support to do the cleansing of the blood that much more efficiently. And so this can help support the rest of the body with eliminating toxins. So what people do on the kidney cleanse is, I said we start on like a very low carbohydrate diet in the beginning for the first 10 days, but then after that, in my book, I detail adding some foods back in. So we might add in some nuts, like some almonds or pumpkin seeds, and we might add some starches like pumpkin and acorn squash as we're going. And then by the time we get to the kidney cleanse, we might be ready to add a couple of beans and a couple more things. So we are subsequently adding food in. That's really helpful for most people who otherwise feel too restricted. Some people just feel amazing on the digestive cleanse diet and they'll just want to do it for longer. And you certainly can. It's certainly physiologically appropriate for a lot of people to stay on more of a ketogenic diet longer term if it's serving their needs there. With some support. And so you can reference my lectures on the keto diet on my website if you want, or I'm happy to talk about that in the Q&A. If people have questions at the end of this talk, feel free to put questions in the chat. So I use kidney supporting herbs. I have a kidney cleanse tea and then a kidney support supplement that's got magnesium and B6 and resveratrol and some other things that are very beneficial for the kidneys. And then once a person has sort of prepped the digestive system, worked on the biome, worked on maximizing kidneys, then they're ready to help the liver, which probably has the furthest reach in terms of, arguably maybe has the furthest reach in terms of a detoxifying organ. And so traditionally we do a liver cleanse last after we've done all of the support. There's a lot of things we're exposed to that can be harmful to the liver, different synthetic hormones that we might be taking as a medication or just getting exposed to in food or personal care items, heavily processed foods, different toxins, a low-fat diet. All these things are very damaging to the liver. And so we're working to help the liver to kind of recover and rejuvenate and improve its ability to function by doing the liver cleanse. So we're going to emphasize things that encourage those three steps. And this is very important for the body because the liver has a really far reach in terms of what it does for us. It helps with managing our hormones. It helps with managing how we make energy and how we balance nutrient metabolism. It helps us with burning fat and storing fuel. And obviously, it plays a big role in detoxification. So we're still eating a really healthy cleansing diet, which is promoting the 3 steps, the 3 phases of detoxification. And then what we usually do is take herbs or supplements that really help upregulate the different phases of detoxification. So I've got pictured here the liver support formula. Some people like to do like a dandelion root or burdock root tea. We're typically using herbals that promote bile production and flow, which is going to help make sure that those 3 phases of detoxification are supported. Then at the end of, many days of sort of prepping the liver, I usually tell people to prep the liver with the herbs for about 10 days. People have the option of doing the liver flush. And a liver flush is a more cathartic type of cleanse. It's definitely not for everyone. If someone knows that they have gallstones, it's not something they should do unless they're under the guidance of a doctor. I typically discourage people who know they have gallstones to do it. But what you would do is eat apples or take malic acid, which is what's high, the active ingredient in apples, which we need from eating them. So you'd have a fast of eating apples, and those help with softening up the bile. So we're trying to soften everything in the liver. The bile is something that the liver makes and how it moves out the toxins through the different phases. So apples really help with this. If someone can't do apples because of blood sugar concerns, then we typically take malic acid supplements and do vegetables instead. And then after you've done that for 1 or 2 days, you can take a cocktail. Doesn't taste good, but it's a combination of citrus like lemon with olive oil. And this really helps with softening and causing a big release of bile in the liver, which goes to the gallbladder and then gets moved out in a bowel movement. And that's what the liver flush is. So, to summarize everything I've talked about today, the diet is very important. You might have to cater it to you. You want to really make sure whatever cleansing food program you're on, that it's really focused on prioritizing detoxification, metabolic health, and also immune health. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results you want. And then once you've got that diet established, you can do my critter cleanse, or sorry, digestive cleanse, followed by the critter cleanse, then the kidney and the liver cleanse. And this is all detailed in my book, which you can get on my website. It's also available for sale at A Room of One's Own in Madison. And as I mentioned, I take a group of people through the body tune-up in a workshop format. We do it virtually via Zoom, and this year's workshop will start on Tuesday, October 13th, and it'll go for 6 weeks. So we'll go from the very beginning of the tune-up all the way to the end for 6 weeks. I do have scholarships available, both full scholarships as well as partial scholarships. So if you want to do the tune-up, but the cost is an issue, please apply for a scholarship. You can read more about those on my website. And I hope you'll join me next month when I talk about age-reversing habits. And then October, I'm going to be talking about mycotoxins. And finally, just a reminder that I do the $58 co-op sessions if you want to meet with me one-on-one. I'm happy to provide this service through the Willie Street Co-op at the two co-op locations. I have just 8 sessions a month, so I'm currently full for August, but I am currently taking people for the September slots. All right, thank you so much.